Hello my creative friends, it's time to take another art break, and today we're going to be creating this sweet little summertime painting. It's full of soft flowers, happy bees, and lots of handmade charm. I'm going to walk you through the steps of how you can create these pretty little watercolors, adding little splashes of colors and little taps of water to bring that soft little glow to them. I'm also going to walk you through the steps at the end of how I use color pencils to add little bits of scribbly bits to the background and to all those flowers to create even a little bit more handmade charm to this painting. For those of you who'd like to paint along with me, but perhaps drawing's not your thing, no need to worry. I do have a sketchbook membership. That's where I have all of the line tracers for any of the paintings I do on my channel. So then you can just simply trace and paint right along with me. Now this is a great beginner style painting, or for anyone who wants to just add a little bit of happy painting time in your day, this is going to be a great one to create. Well, let's jump right in and I'll show you how you can begin the painting process of how to create those soft little watercolor flowers. The paper and the paint I'm using today is a student grade. I'm using Canson watercolor paper and just an inexpensive set of watercolor from Amazon. I'll have some links down in the description box if you want to check out any of the things I might use in today's painting. I'm going to start with those flowers, and I mixed a little bit of that kind of a peachy color first to about tea consistency, and I put that in just the flower shapes that I have hand drawn in the background. And then once I have that peach on there, I'm going to pick up that next shade of bright pink and tap it just into the middle. And because that peach color is wet underneath, by adding that little bit of darker color to the center, it's going to just naturally blend on its own, and I won't have to do a lot of work to get those colors to blend. For the next set of flowers over, I'm going to start with a medium shade of pink, mixed to about the consistency of coffee, tap that into the flower shapes I've already drawn, and then I'm going to take a little bright pink of neon pink. This set has a neon pink in it, and it really does pop just really super bright, and it's a fun color to use when you're creating these little watercolor paintings. Again, because my paint is wet on wet, it's going to just blend naturally. I'm going to use that same color of blush too, that color of peachy color, and tap a little bit of it here and there, kind of just add a little bit of that blushing color, even maybe a little past the color shapes that I've already drawn. But I want to keep it really light and washy. Now for this one off to the side, I'm going to start with more of that blush color and paint those flowers again, like I had done on the other one. And I'm going to just create that little blush color just in the flower shapes I've already painted. And then I'll go off to a little bit off to the edge, water it down a little bit more, and just brush in a little bit of that color here and there to help create that subtle background of that there might be flowers back there without having very distinct just little flower patterns of round circles. I'm just blushing in that color. And then I'm coming back into the medium pink now, adding it to the centers. That flower is still wet, and those colors should just blend naturally. While those colors are still wet, I'm going to pop up to the top part of my painting and add a little bit of blue. I have some blue already mixed at the top of my little tray area that I had used on my other painting, and I'm just picking a little bit of that up. It's mostly has a lot of water in it, so it's probably about coffee consistency, and I'm just brushing it here and there. I'm not going to have a very strong like sky horizon line in this painting, but I want to have that feel that there's like this blue turquoisey sky feeling at the top, and I'm just lightly brushing those colors down. Now to create a little shade of green to use for my leaves. I took some green from my set and then I mixed it with that turquoise from the sky and then just combined my colors together. I like doing that sometimes where you can use some color from some other area that you've already used and mix it with a different color, and then it kind of harmonizes your painting. If you can mix those colors and bring those tones of some of that color from another area into an area you're painting, you're going to get a nice balance in your painting. So I'm just going to be brushing a little bit of this green in here and there, even up a little high where I haven't drawn any leaves, just to give it a feeling that there might be a hint of a leaf or greenery back there. Now for these leaves, I just think about when I'm painting them that the ones that are behind are going to be a little darker and the ones that are out front will be a little lighter. When you're painting watercolor, you're always painting the shadows. So the first layer of color you lay on will be your lightest, brightest color, and then you add your darker shades on top. You want to build your colors slowly as you go. That way you're going to see some of those other colors that you laid on through your other colors because it's a translucent art medium. If you are a sketchbook member, I always recommend doing more than one painting at a time. That way you can try out different colors, add different water mounts to your colors, and see how your colors can mix and blend. And since you're doing one, you might as well do two. They're very quick paintings to do, and it's super fun to just experiment and see how your paint is actually blending. And if you're new to watercolor, it really does take an opposite kind of an idea of how you're thinking about how to lay your colors down, because watercolor is just the opposite of acrylic paint, if that's what you're used to painting in. Usually with acrylic paint, you're laying your darker colors first and then laying your lighter colors on top, and this is just the reverse. So it takes a little bit of practice. Don't get frustrated at first especially if you're new to doing watercolor. It just takes a little bit of time to figure out how your paint and your water and your paper all work together. Let's work a little bit on that honey hive up front. And I have a couple different shades of gold, and I'm going to mix those together to come up with a bright shade of yellow. This is going to be my highlight color that's underneath. You won't see a lot of this color in the end, but it's going to make a difference of what's layered over the top. This is going to be my brightest highlight, so I'm just going to wash this yellow color across my hive, brushing it in the horizontal areas of how I drew it, and keeping that shape off to the side of those rounded edges. That'll make it really feel like it's going around, and it's going to add a lot more contour if you can keep that painted shape of how it's drawn. The yellow is mixed to about coffee consistency, and then I'm going to be mixing a little darker shade of this color, and that's going to be the shadow areas. I'm going to be adding those contour shadow lines at the grooves of where the honey hive is, but I'm going to try to keep peaks of that color, of that bright color underneath, so I don't lose it all. I want to see that bright shade of yellow, but then have those darker shades of the brown creating the shadows for my honey hive. And I don't even really know if it's called a honey hive. It might have a lot fancier name than that, but that's what I'm going to call it. If you know what these things are actually called, go ahead and put it in the comments. I'd love to know. To create a little bit more sense of depth for the whole, I did mix up a little bit darker shade of brown and created a darker area on the left side of the whole and left just the tiniest bit of highlight off to one hand side. It's just a small little detail, but it really does add a sense of depth into that area. I picked up the turquoise color since I had brushed that light turquoise at the top. I thought it would be a great idea to bring that turquoise down in a darker version of that color and add that for the base or the stand that this was sitting on. Watercolor always dries slightly lighter than what it does when it's wet. So what you're seeing now, probably more than likely you're going to add more layers on it. It's best to do multiple layers and not try to get your color all what you want it to right away, because by adding those little subtle layers and building your colors, that's what's going to give it that pretty watercolor look that we all like and why we enjoy painting in watercolor. So take your time, add your layers slowly, even if it's a dark color, so that you can get that sense of depth with your colors. For the little banner, I just took a little bit of black and watered it down quite a lot and added it to the turquoise just to create a nice little shadow color. Added that throughout the banner, and then I took my brush and washed it in clean water, gave it a squeeze, and lifted out the color through the center to give it a stronger highlight in the middle of the banner. The bees on these paintings are super small, but this little detail brush works perfect to add those small little details. I can easily add the stripes using this brush, the small little head details, and even the tiny little wings and the antennas. This brush is super small, but it works great to add these little details. I'll have a link down inside of the description box if you'd like to check the set out for yourself. To create the center of the flower, I used more of a concentrated pigment of orange, tapped each individual center, and then added some clean water on top. And that's just going to soften that paint and blend it out to give it that real pretty watercolor blend. For the final step of the watercolor, I watered down some more of that turquoise paint, and then I did the splitter splatter look of adding a lot of it to my brush and then tapping it on my pencil to create that little splattered look. And it just added a nice little interest to the background. I took a final look at my painting, added a little bit more color at the bottom to anchor my painting a little bit more, and then it's a great idea to dry your painting to see if you need to add any more watercolor before you call it done. At this stage, it is very much a lovely watercolor and it could be called done, but I do like to add a few more hand sketch qualities to my paintings, and color pencils work really well to do this, especially on the Canson watercolor paper because it's fairly smooth. Now I just like to choose a variety of pencil colors, and then I like to do irregular lines, so I'm not trying to just copy over it like a color book image would be. I'm looking to be more loose with my line work, going past what I've already painted, adding little tiny scribble marks here and there. The more you do this, the more you're going to know what your marks are, what you like to create, and how you like to add color to your paintings. I like to kind of rediscover lines that I have painted in with my watercolor, but then I also like to just go past what I've painted. So when I'm doing the pencil work around my flowers, I'm not staying exact. I'm kind of holding my pencil and twisting and turning it and creating a little bit more organic line work instead of just being such a solid look. I'm also going to be using my Kimberly 9XXB pencil, which is a super soft graphite pencil, instead of using a black marker. I'm going to use that to add some sketching quality to my banner, and I also use that pencil to do my lettering in instead of using a black marker. This is a good spot to point out that watercolor is not a permanent art medium and will need to be sealed. You can either do that with wax or varnish, and you can even just put a glass over the top if you want to protect it that way. These pencils aren't permanent either, so I like to spray my work with a varnish, and that does seal everything down. With all that being said, it's still super fun to add all these multiple layers. Take this as a playtime, experiment, and see how your colors will layer and what marks you like to create on top of your paintings. Let's take the tape off and take a closer look. This painting makes for a perfect little art break. It comes together quickly. There's not a lot of materials. You can just use your watercolor. You don't even have to use the pencils. But I'm hoping you can see the wonderful details you can get by using colored pencils and a little bit of pencil work. And here it is sitting in my studio amongst some of the other things I've created so far on my YouTube channel this spring and the beginning of summer. Now look at all those beautiful colors. It's just such a happy-filled summertime painting to create. If you're new to my channel and you like doing whimsical style art and crafts, come on over and see what I'm doing. I'd love to have more creative friends join me. Leave me a comment or give me a thumbs up. It really does help YouTube push my channel out there. Well, thanks for joining me, and hopefully you'll come back and join me again, and perhaps next time you'll create right along with me.